Hello everybody, welcome back to Cure for the Common Game. Today, in deck number 548, we're going to talk about Kroxa, Titan of Death's Hunger. Now for 2 mana, we get a 6/6 Elder Giant. That's awesome, right? Well, it comes with a little more cost than that. You have to escape it. Once you cast it from the command zone, it's just going to hit the battlefield and hit the graveyard. But when it does hit the battlefield or attacks, each opponent discard a card, and then each opponent who didn't discard a non-land card this way loses 3 life. I hate the use of that double negative there. It kind of makes it a little confusing. So each opponent who didn't discard a non-land loses 3 life. So that means if they discard a land, they don't. If they don't, anyway, you get the idea. They discard. I'll have to actually. Maybe there's Oracle text on this. I probably should have looked that up beforehand. But anyway, red-black discard. It's kind of what the creature begs us for. So that's what we did. Now, I have got. Where do we start? I guess first thing, we need mana to cast our spells, right? So we're going to go through the mana ramp or rocks or color fixing, what have you. We've got a Dark Ritual, for that one-shot deal. All of the Rakdos things, the Locket, Key Rune, Signet, Cluestone, Vein-Fire Border Post, Spectral Searchlight, Seer's Lantern, and Bloodstone Cameo. We got to cast things. That's just how it is. So, I got several different categories of discard. But first, let's get to the things that care about discard. Now, it all started off back in the day with Megrim. An opponent discards a card, they're going to take 2 damage. Okay? Then we got Liliana's Caress. When an opponent discards a card, they lose 2 life, which is, obviously it's better at 2 mana, but it's a little different as a life loss as opposed to damage. There are times when that matters. We got Raider's Wake. Here again, they lose 2 life. But Raid, at the beginning of your end step, if you attacked with a creature this turn, you get to force an opponent to discard. So that's cool. Then we have the Fell Spectre. Speaking of attacking with a creature, enters the battlefield, opponent discards, and whenever an opponent discards, they lose 2 life. So this is here again. This is pretty sweet. We have Waste Not. This is what happens when you let us, the Magic-playing populace, design a card. This was, you designed the card. They did it on the website for prior to M15, and the people visiting the Wizards website voted on every part of this card. Yeah, so this is this is what happens. It's a busted card. An opponent discards a card. Opponent discards a creature, you get a zombie. Discards a land, you get double black. Discards a non-creature, non-land, you get to draw a card. Super busted. We have Davriel, one of our new, at the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, if the player has 1 or fewer cards, Davriel does 2 damage to them. Okay, and yeah, you can minus him to make them discard a card. I don't think we'll ever do that. This deck has enough discard mechanics without, Planeswalkers don't typically live long in a multiplayer environment anyway, so we don't want to get him any closer to death. We want that ability. And then Geth's Grimoire. Opponent discards a card, you can draw. So, that is our ancillary, discard matter spells. So let's make some folks discard. Hands down, probably one of the best discard spells ever, Hymn to Turok. The fact that the cards are random is just absolutely wonderful. Of course, I have the one shot of Duress because I don't own a Thoughtseize. We have Delirium Schemes. Man, there's a big one. Everybody discards 3. Woo. Mind Rake. Target player discards 2. Now, this is not bad. It's one of the few times that the overload cost is cheaper than the casting cost. So it's actually cheaper to overload it. Kind of cool. Wrench Mind, another kind of, 2 mana, 2 cards, unless they drop an artifact, which is kind of... Now, Burning Inquiry. Here is an ongoing problem with discard decks. Eventually, once everybody gets out of cards in hand, then you're kind of stuck with dead cards in your hand. So, doing what I can to, like Burning Inquiry here, everybody draws 3 and discards 3 at random. Of course, Rakdos Return, got to have that. Persecute for that monocolor player at the table. Skull Rend, Abandon Hope. Now let's look at creatures that do the discarding. First, I want to talk about Shocker. Shocker's just a... Why is Shocker all glary? Dang you, Tempest. Shocker damages any player. That player discards his or her hand and then draws a new hand of as many cards. So they effectively... what is it? It's not Wheel, it's when to change their hand. So... while they are discarding, they're not down any cards. So the popular thing to do with Shocker, which was, of course, put a plink effect on it so that you could ding, 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 not present here. We have the Abyssal Spectre, Liliana Spectre, Abyssal Nocturnus. Now that I think about it, I should have put Hypnotic Spectre in here because it is an iconic card and it needs to be in here. We'll find a spot. I'm going to try out this Cabal Therapist because, this may be Hypnotic Spectre slot right here. I've played a couple times. Dauthi Mind Ripper. Now, it having Shadow, it's getting through. You can sack it to make a player discard 3. Of course, it's attacking an unblocked clause. Lightning Skelemental. Maybe this is the Hypnotic Spectre slot. Yeah, it's a ball of lightning with a mind rod attached to it, and then Sire of Insanity. Why not? At the beginning of each end step, everybody discards their hand. Yeah. So, now we got enchantments that force the discard. Believe it or not, back in Stronghold, y'all saw Megrim earlier. Megrim and Bottomless Pit, not only in the same set, they were in the same precon deck. You could just buy it and have Bottomless Pit Megrim. What? So, yeah. The random is what kind of upsets people. Necrogen Mist. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player discards a card. So, and then Painful Quandary. You cast a spell, you're going to lose 5 unless you can discard a card. Both of those are kind of valuable. It's one of the rare times letting an opponent choose kind of doesn't matter to you. Now, we've got a little bit of card draw of our own with, Sign in Blood, Read the Bones, Foreboding Fruit, and Downable Pact. Buddy of mine last night, Danny, he pacted me for like 7 to get me down low enough to where he could alpha strike in and kill me. It's a pretty sweet play, to be honest with you. Now, things that kind of go hand in hand with discard. And what I mean by that is, let's look at why did Precinct 6? By making people discard, we're filling their graveyards. So there's going to be creatures in their yard. This gets +1/+1 for each creature in your opponent's. That's total graveyards. Sangromancer. Whenever a creature an opponent controls is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, you can gain 3. Whenever they discard, you may gain 3. So this is kind of a beautiful thing. Victimize. Like I said, there's going to be creatures in the graveyard. So let's reanimate some with Victimize, Rise from the Grave, Necromancy, and Command the Dreadhorde if you're feeling frisky enough. I love that it's not all. You get to choose any number, so you get to pick the ones you want. You don't have to, it's not a 6-mana kill yourself spell. Although I'm not that responsible of a Magic player, and I will spend my life down to the last one. Got a Diabolic Tutor to go find what we need. Now, Anathemancier's in there just because it's a good card in multiplayer. I mean, here we are. We play a format that has one of the largest card pools there are. And we love our non-basic lands. And the fact that this has legs, I mean, after you get to actually do it twice. Once when it comes into play, and then once when you unearth it. So, I really kind of like it. I've seen Anathemancier kill players. We've got Fleshbag Marauder to get those creatures off the board. Slum Reaper, Whisper Silk Cloak, kind of protect our whole thing. But Deathbringer Thoctor is another one. This is just a good beater. Now, 6 mana for a 3/3 don't, sound incredible, but creatures dying, getting counters or moving counters to deal damage, more than likely we're just going to, mound this thing up and it's going to be a huge beater. But our last card, let's talk about Noetic Scales. For 4 mana, this is an artifact. Now, like I said, instead of having players draw extra cards, like with Howling Mines and Temple Bells and things like that, I just want to keep putting the cards back in their hand. Now, there's a downside to this. During each player's upkeep, return to their hand each creature that player controls with power greater number of cards in their hand. So, you have to be very careful with this with our commander, because our commander is a 6/6. So 6 power, he's going to get bounced to our hand if we don't have 6 cards. So, this is a real thing, potentially a nombo with the commander, but let's face it, the commander is an idea only. We could actually probably never cast him and be fine. But, if the game lines up to where you've got the extra cards to escape with and you're like, hey, But anyway, Noetic Scales will help if the ideal scenario is when everybody has no hand, they will have no creatures, because they all get bounced. Let's look at some removal. Pretty basic removal. Pyroblast, Red Elemental Blast, because we're running scared of... Well, I say we're running scared of Rift. Maybe Rift would help in this deck if somebody else rifted. Probably not. It never helps, right? Murder, Terminate, Diabolic Edict. Now, Capital Punishment I really like, because you want to sack creature or discard a card. Now, it's probably, this is turn 6, in theory, when we cast it. So, yeah. The only downside here is if they already don't have any cards, they'll just choose to discard and, blank the spell pretty much. Angrath Rampage I'm trying out. I kind of like it. It's a whatever edict. And then lastly, Ether Snap. Now, last night, if I had drawn Ether Snap, it would have been great in the game against Jimmy's Hydras, but pretty sweet. So let's look at our non-basic lands. Typical 2-color stuff. Tressorhorn Sinks, Temple of Malice, Bloodfell Caves, Cinder Barrens, Rakdos Carnarium, Alchem Refuge, Rakdos Guildgate. Of course, the Grixis Panorama. I like Rick's Mighty. Each player discards a card. Evolving Wilds, Terramorphic Expanse, Jund Panorama. Yes, I'm abusing those panoramas lately because, well, we can. They have no color identity, and it operates like a better Evolving Wilds, if you will, because it does, in fact, tap for mana. Rogue's Passage, and Gyre Reach Sanitarium. I like this because, everybody draws and discards. So that is what we did for Kroxa. So let's Now, static. Few things to cover. This is day one of my vacation. So I had to take the outer sleeve off of Kroxa because it just didn't film well with that on there for some reason. Maybe that was an old one. So I want to pan this camera up here, and you're going to see what I'm about to talk about. So 548 is on the wall. Now, this is, I'm sure you noticed the big black spot in the back. This is day one of my vacation, so that's right, Minecraft Jones. Doing a little home remodeling. I have got, maybe not remodeling, home repairs, stuff like that all this week. So I'm going to try to record up some here so that I've got this one and two more decks. So that'll give me a few days to actually focus on, fixing my house. And part of what I want to do, I did a test spot there, and I wanted to see how it looked on film, because I didn't do any more than that, because that is gloss black, and I think I want matte black. Even though that doesn't have any kind of shine to it. Let's see if we can adjust the focus, see if we can make it shine. No? Okay. Still, to me, I obviously love the shine-in. It's in the blood. So I'm going to try to remodel this room as much as possible to move out some of the excess paint to what the raw wood, and try to get rid of the the whole tie-dyed, because as I said, this particular room here has a history. It used to be 4 rooms, used to be 2 rooms, used to be, it was it has a history, and it's been painted several times in different parts. So I kind of want to get it all back to center. Something that's a little more camera friendly, that doesn't have the glare, that helps the lighting for when we do the actual play videos, things like that. And once I get everything painted, we can rearrange our entire lighting scenario to where it will help out as far as glare on cards and whatnot. Because that's the big issue. So that's what I've got going this week. Appreciate y'all watching. Here's another thing. I realize 18 minutes into the video is probably not the best place to put this, but I need a name for this room. It's been called the Magic Room. It's been called the Vault. It's been called the CCG Room. The studio, whatever. Y'all probably have more creative minds than I've got, so I need to name the room, because I kind of want. I don't know. It's operating under 15 different names now. So what I'll probably do, y'all suggest it in the comments, and I'll probably run a giant Twitter poll with all of those suggestions. So I don't know if you can do a giant Twitter poll. I don't know if you can do any more than 4. I don't know. I've never done more than 4, so we'll find out. Anyway, that's what I have got for today. I'm going to record up 2 more, and we will see y'all later. Right now, it's literally time to shuffle and cut.